All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 2 of American Made and Paid. I am your host, Zach Hing, and I got Professor Dreg with me once again. And we're going to continue our dialogue a little bit about Plessy versus Ferguson, simply because progressive issues, as far as what they are, how they're defined, is not something that Americans actually have a handle on. And I know that you have a lot to say about that. That's the thing, is most people don't know what it is. Most people don't know the history of it. And for those of you who are still unfamiliar with this, I mean, we'll dive a little bit into how it's relevant to today's day and age, but we also got to talk a little bit about the history of it. So, with that being said, I mean, yeah, for those of you who don't know, Jim Crow laws, segregation, right? The racism as we know it. So, I mean, what did we learn a little bit about Plessy versus Ferguson? I know we were talking about it in terms of private education yesterday, but
Well, yeah. Well,
you know,
okay. So here's the thing. Like, why did we bring it up?
I think we were
And
bringing it up because we were talking about Woodrow Wilson yesterday. We're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about
But like the genesis. Why did we honestly bring this up? Why did we bring up Plessy versus Ferguson? Because I contend, and I still contend, that progressive ideology and anything politically progressive is always going to be rooted in racism.
right.
And yesterday, I was thrown off because I just haven't thought about Plessy versus Ferguson. Fuck, dude, it's been a long time since I even had to think about it because it's not even a real case. Everybody keeps saying how, oh, Plessy versus Ferguson is going to be this groundbreaking thing that Jim Crow was based on, or was proof that Jim Crow existed.
Yeah.
Right after slavery. But now that's all BS, because the thing is that people have to remember, and this is the thing that you have to ask yourself: what happened on December 7th, 1865? Seriously, think about it. What happened? That's the day after slavery. Slavery ended, Congress passed a law or something like that, because everybody go, oh, January 31st is when slavery ended. No, 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 no. It didn't. Technically it was December 6th.
Right.
So the question becomes, what happened on the 7th? What happened? Like, seriously, what do you think happened? I want your honest to God opinion on what you think happened on December 7th after slavery ended.
Well, that's the magic question that unfortunately not many people know about. I mean, here's the thing. Here's my thought. They went back to work and they didn't work for free. They were able to bargain. I don't know if they had voting rights just yet. Did they? You got to check my history on that.
No,
But
no, of course, because it was in the Constitution. They were 3/5 vote.
okay, so yeah,
So
they were already able to vote. It's just that their vote didn't count as much as a person because they were considered
no, but then
property at
think
the
about
time.
this. I want you to think about this, though,
All right.
because you just brought up another point. Because seriously,
Oh, that's good.
you
Let's
just
roll with
bring
it.
up so many different things. It's crazy. But think about this. Did the women have rights to vote? There was no law stopping them. So
So
did the women have right to votes back then? So, but we'll get into that later. But because I want to jump
no, no,
back
no,
into.
here. Hey, step back from the mic a little bit because it's a little strong. Yeah, just talk from an
Oh, okay,
angle.
shit.
That's
Sorry about that.
no, no, you're fine.
I'm so used to,
Yeah, no, no, just hey,
because I'm.
man, it's a podcast, it's a dialogue. You just step back a bit, it'll
Anyway,
be
so
fine.
let's go back.
No, no,
So,
no. So no, I want to answer your question right there. I'm going to hold you to that. So, what happened the day after slavery ended?
so yeah, the day after slavery, you're right. They went back to work, but
Okay,
they weren't working for free. There wasn't minimum wage. So what were they working for? And this is the start of honest to God, true capitalism with no regulations.
right.
So the
Because back then,
Reconstruction era
right.
is really considered, in my opinion, and based on facts that I have, like case laws and everything else, from 1865, December 7th, all the way up until Woodrow Wilson was elected as president, this is the only time in American history, well, especially on the December 7th, that was the day we had capitalism with no regulation. So we had, for the first time and probably the only time, free markets, no regulations, and it was whoever was the best person will just win.
So that would make sense because back then they operated the cotton gins. They were in charge of manufacturing. They knew how to tend agriculture and all the crops and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. They
So
were
they
the
knew how to
only
barter.
ones doing this.
Right, right.
They were the only ones doing this because why? Think about it. How many white guys were working in the fields with the blacks?
Well, there
You know,
were also white slaves. I mean, we got to talk about that too, right? But
but
probably
that's the
not as
question.
many.
How many of them? how many white people were honest to God working with the black people? Like the white people didn't know how to do it, and most of them were not, because the whites who were indentured servants, you know, they're parts of slavery, I guess, because they were more like indentured servants. So, you know, they could work they were slaves, you know, to work out of debt, which is actually pretty cool. You know what I mean? I owe 100,000. Fuck it, I'll just work it off. But anyway, when you get that right, how, you know, how many whites were honestly doing this, that honestly knew how? Very few.
Zero.
Wasn't, yeah, very few
Zero.
at that time when slavery
Yeah.
ended, Civil War. Yeah, I could, you know, I don't want to say zero, but maybe like 100, 150. It wasn't that many. So, but anyway, but on December 7th, 1865, that was the start of free market capitalism. No regulations, how everybody always dreams of how capitalism is, but that's how it is on the streets. See, on the streets, there's no regulations. The only regulation is if you get caught, you go to jail. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
But
So
how you run your business, that's your business.
So let's stay on the point about what black people were doing exactly the day after slavery, just because I feel like this is a part where we can talk about that we neglect, and it's not something that's taught to us because of history. You know, we just kind of forget.
Yeah, well, okay, so
65 to 1912.
Yeah, so let's jump back to it. We had, well, but black people had.
Well, you're black. You can say
yeah, I know.
I'm going to hold you to that. You're a black guy. You can say we.
Yeah, no, well, you know, because I didn't go through it personally. It's kind of like sports when you say, "Oh, we won." Nigga, you didn't win shit.
Nah. It's like you watched
won,
it just root
for that team.
Yeah,
No, but it's true. You root for the team. You didn't win. You didn't shoot no basket. But anyway, so
yeah.
Yeah, that's a mistake that we all make. But anyway, so we had total domination in the two biggest fields in U.S. economy. It wasn't the railroads. It wasn't oil wells and digging for oil. It wasn't none of that.
Right.
The biggest industry was agriculture, you know, because everybody was a farmer. Everybody was growing food, and we were providing food. And I say we, I meant the United States provides food for the entire world back then. And that was the biggest industry. There was no Silicon Valley, none of that stuff. It was, you got to always remember for what it was back then. Mm-hmm. So in 1865, agriculture was number one. Number two was always a surprise to most people, but it was mechanical engineering. And then people think like, well, how do black people know about mechanical engineering? Because like you said, the cotton gin, and other things, you know, like the things that separate like tobacco and things like it's a trip when you really look at the machines that were used for farming. Right. And, you know, it was like they had an automated plow, you know, like people, when they see a plow, they think of a donkey and a guy pushing it behind.
But that's old fashioned. That's like rice farmer style. We don't have that anymore, but yeah.
No, but back then they had like a multi, like, I don't know shit about plowing, but it was like 2 or 3, like a rototiller machine or something, but it wasn't like with the mechanical engine, but still, like, you know what I mean? That was used for like the I don't know what Henry Ford used for his assembly line, for like automated.
Anyways, let's talk about the tiling. So they knew how to work that type of machinery. They knew how to work the cotton engine. So mechanical engineering dominated for black.
Yeah, so whites didn't know how to do that. So black people already had a system in place in the South where they were teaching each other, like real legitimate schools, and you know, that's what they did. They taught each other how to do this. They passed on that information with established schools, you know, and the most prominent one is still in existence today. But anyway, so long story short, as the time went on, progressive ideology was catching on, because Charles Darwin at this time was saying, oh, hey, wait a minute, God doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And because God doesn't exist and all that's a fairy tale, guess what? Science says that the Aryan race, and he literally wrote down Aryan race, was the most superior race, and then that the black race was the most inferior race, and just like gorillas. He literally wrote that when the gorillas were extinct, that black people would be extinct at the
Right.
same time. So when the gorillas go, so do the blacks.
Is
And
that why a lot of the theory surrounding evolution is we evolved from apes and black people are closer to that?
related. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, because of what Darwin said. Darwin said it, so therefore we come from apes.
Well, that's the thing, right? And when you eliminate God out of the equation, then obviously the whole concept of creation, of everyone is equal, is taken out of the equation as well, which means that you can basically get away with justifying some of these theories. Now, I know we're going against the grain here a little bit, but aside from that, the progressive
Well, see,
ideology that Darwin
well,
instilled.
Darwin, okay, so remember what you said? Yeah, well, I don't, it was yesterday, but yesterday you were saying something about separate but equal. But
Yeah.
see, now that's the thing. Not even separate but equal. Darwin was saying that they were superior because, in theory, I mean, because I really don't know the Bible that much, it's a biblical thing to say separate but equal. You know what I mean? But I don't know because I don't really know the Bible, but I believe that's where they get that from. So what Darwin did was way worse than separate but equal. He was saying whites were superior. And then
Mhm.
it kind of reminds me of what Candace said about what Hitler was doing in Germany. And she had no, I was like, what the? I literally just heard it just minutes ago. And I'm thinking, what is she talking? That's insane. What she said about what Hitler was doing in Germany. And that really bugs me when people are given a national platform and
Right.
don't know their history. Dude, that's insane. But anyway, so we're going to go back to what happened in here and Darwin. Darwin was preaching at that time slavery was ended, because you got to remember, Charles Darwin was a prominent scientist, just like Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was doing real science, and
Mhm.
we use his work today, like pasteurization of milk,
Yeah, yeah, of course,
antibiotics.
of course.
That's stuff that's real science. And he didn't believe in none of that BS. He knew, I don't know if he believed in God, but he didn't believe that, whites were superior to blacks, and he knew that antibiotics would work on blacks just like it would on whites, because we're humans, and he knew that antibiotics that are used on humans wouldn't work on gorillas. He knew that. Louis Pasteur knew all of this. That's
Is
all
that where the
documented.
term pasteurized comes from?
Yeah, his name,
Oh,
Louis
good. I
Pasteur.
learned something new every day. I had no idea. It's like pasture as in pasteurized milk.
Yeah. Dude, I honestly thought you knew.
No, no,
Like,
no. That's news, but I appreciate you saying that because I didn't
no,
know
well,
that.
yeah, dude, but that's what pasteurization means, dude. I'm not kidding you.
Oh,
So in
okay.
that time, when slavery was ended,
Yeah, yeah.
but there was no money in being Louis Pasteur, but there was money in being a racist. So everybody, and to this day, people still don't give Louis Pasteur the respect he deserves, and yet the progressives suck the penis of Charles Darwin like if he's God himself. And so anyway, so you got to remember that you always got to remember things in a historical context. In 1865, December 7th, you had people who were worshiping Charles Darwin, hell bent on trying to destroy black people because they're gorillas. There is no way a gorilla can outdo a superior Aryan dude. So, but anyway,
But so let's focus on that because I mean I want to break things up that you say and we can talk about it a little bit more. Is that why also a lot of the propaganda, a lot of the anti-black propaganda, like making them look like savages, obviously with inflated cartoons and exaggerated, all of that also came from the sentiment that was also being pushed forward
yeah, that was all scientifically at that time acceptable, because
scientifically at that time, right? But
because remember, this is the beginning of the rise of atheism, I don't know how to atheism.
yeah,
So
I mean
this is
that's a
the
way of
rise
saying
of
it.
atheism using science. And Charles Darwin is so dangerous. He actually gave rise to people like the KKK and Hitler. Like, that's how Hitler became super crazy, because that was accepted science even in Hitler's day. And even to this day, you still see people saying that this is evolution is based on Charles Darwin's work. Where in theory, you know, I believe from what I've read in Genesis, like I'm still stuck on Genesis, I believe that evolution is actually talked about in the Bible, because I was reading that, you know, and I could be wrong because I'm not
I don't
really
know
good.
about that either, so I'm not sure. I couldn't really. You got me there. I can't.
Well, no, he was saying something like in Genesis, saying like the more you have kids, the more closer to God you will
That
become.
okay? Well, that I don't know, but that we'll have to check. Closer to God, the more kids you have, the more closer to
Yeah,
God.
no, but I believe they were talking about down the generations. Like he was like, that's why, like, I don't know the chapter or
Yeah, that's
verse,
cool.
but
We don't have to focus on that. I mean,
yeah, no, but
we
it's
have to
always
check.
tripping. I was like, wait a
That's
minute,
funny.
but this is like, you know, because in theory, like my kids are gonna be better than me.
Yeah, well,
Eh,
we should hope so. I mean, that's the
Yeah, no,
goal
but
of every parent.
I think that was said in the Bible, but I forget off the top of my head. So yeah, we'll move forward from that. But
But let's drive it back before Plessy v. Ferguson. There's a 20-year period after slavery ends where Black people are doing well because they know how to operate machinery. Obviously, now they're not working for free. There's also education, right? The advent of
yeah,
that.
so they have the education, they have the tools, they have everything, and they're already. So you got to remember too, the day after slavery, what happened? J.P. Morgan, the dude from J.P. Morgan Chase, he had 15,000 slaves as collateral, and just straight out he owned them. Not all 15,000, he owned like 1,500, and he owned through collateral like 13,000 something slaves as collateral because they were property at the time. So he struck a deal with all of these Black people, you know, and so did the plantation owners. So they're moving forward. So now 10 years after slavery ended, what happened? Well, like you said, they had a monopoly on education. So what did they do? Congress, with the notion
Mm-hmm.
that Charles Darwin was saying how Blacks were going to be dead with the gorillas, they had to come up with things to undo Black success. And one of the first things they did was give away free land for people to start schools that actually taught agriculture and mechanical, which is mechanical engineering.
And with that free land, they were given the opportunity to start their own academic institutions.
Yes, and
hence Texas A&M and
yes,
Florida
that
A&M.
was the very first one. Texas A&M in
76, I think.
1876, I believe.
Yeah. I could be wrong. Guys, you're going to have to fact check me on that. But anyways.
Yeah, 76. It was 1876, I believe, or could have been 1877. 10 or 12 years after slavery ended, Texas A&M started, and the A stood for, like you said, agriculture and mechanical. And that was an all-white school. Why? Because that's how it was. Because why? Because there was a school in Florida called Florida A&M.
It actually started in 71. Sorry, I just have to correct that because people are gonna be like, dude, 71.
No. It was 71.
Yeah, 1871, which is even better. I mean, that makes sense.
That's why you don't pick up the phone. You're on the phone.
Yeah, that's what's your phone. No. I can't even find my phone.
I'm trying to call you.
Dude, you know all this is going into the recording, right? Tell Wendy that you're on air right now. Like,
so, but anyway, so going back to that, they were making policies based on progressive ideology. So all of those people in Congress who did that Homestead Act to try to get colleges built to compete with the Black universities and colleges, they were unsuccessful for a long time until Woodrow Wilson became president. And that's how he got so much national traction, because, you know, Plessy v. Ferguson didn't work. Why? Because it wasn't about separate but equal. And I mean, they mentioned it, but they didn't say, like, specifically, they didn't say separate but equal.
right.
The case itself was about, did Louisiana have a right to write these laws saying that, you know, Blacks had to be in their own spot and whites had to be in their own spot? And they said, yeah, they do. Why? Because in Boston, the schools were excluding black people from their schools, whereas in the
there was
South,
no but there was no segregation in the North.
yeah, there was.
Really?
Yeah, it started in the North. It started in all of these areas that believed in Darwin. So all these, that's why.
Northern Democrats, but not in all places. I mean, there
No,
was
no, 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 no. Just in the schools, because schools were technically always been separated from the beginning. So blacks have their own schools. I mean, because that's how it was when slavery.
yeah. Okay, no, I see what you're saying.
Stuff. So,
Yeah.
and at the time, whites had to keep up.
Right,
So
right.
the Ivy League is going to always and will always be the most racist spots on the planet, because they were founded on that idea. Their most prominent people are rooted in that, like Darwin and Woodrow Wilson. They were rooted in this progressive ideology that stated that, hey, look, blacks are gorillas. And that's and every policy from 1913 or anything coming from Charles Darwin and what you see today in 2019 will always say the same thing. Blacks are gorillas, and we got to lock them up, take away their education, lock them up in cages, because that's what prison is. It's just a zoo. It's a zoo in there.
Yeah, but that's funny how it's there's a manifestation of it, right? Where it's like, it doesn't look like it's racist, but at the core of it, it is. So what would you say to people who say, are you kidding me? I'm a progressive. I don't think that black people, because I'm going to challenge you on this, just for people who are listening. What if they say things like, well, that obviously is not the case, because we're all for making sure that black people are treated equally and that the policemen aren't abusing black people and that kind of thing.
No, and I'll say, you look at any city with any progressive leading that city or state, but you got to look at it from city per city, because when you do state by state, it's you can't.
It's conflated with other.
Because see, the Constitution and how it was, like with Plessy v. Ferguson, they always look at individual cities, the local municipalities. So when a local municipality is ran by progressives, blacks will always have it the worst. They'll always have the highest level of crime, undereducation, and imprisonment. Without exception. There is no exception to what I'm saying. You look at where there's high black incarceration,
right,
black poverty, it will always be under a progressive leader, without exception. Whether the progressive is white or black or Asian, it doesn't matter. It will always be bad for blacks. Blacks will always be the guinea pigs.
Can I interject and actually say something that will stir the conversation a bit? Because I think my theory is this. A lot of so-called progressives that don't know the real history of progressivism, the value system, what it is rooted under, are going to come back with the idea that they have no idea about this. But simply by advocating for more government, as in more regulation, it puts people at a disadvantage, and it allows the so-called racism or the discrimination to be more implicit.
Yes. See, and to add to what you're saying, oh God, you don't even know how right you are. And I'm going to bring it back to Candace.
No, this is good. This is good for the podcast.
Check this out.
Yeah.
See now, that's why I'm going to bring it back to Candace right now. See, Candace was saying something like, oh yeah, Hitler was a nationalist, but he wasn't a nationalist. He was a straight up racist, using nationalism as a way to get his points and his theories all across, because yeah, he made a national freeway system. Let's keep Germany beautiful. But you know what? Them damn Jews, they're the reasons why Germany's not. So he killed them all. And that's what the progressives always do. Progressives, and that's why, like, Candace to me sounds like a hardcore progressive advocate without knowing she is a progressive advocate. She just doesn't know it, because she doesn't know what she speaks about. So progressives to this day have no idea about progressive ideology, progressive plans, because it all sounds good. Oh, let's do this welfare stuff. Why? Well, because blacks are, their IQ is a little lower.
See, but that's I spoke about this in a video a couple of days ago, because the pandering, right? And I got accused of doing this too. But the pandering is almost like saying, hey, you already have it rough. Let me help you out. When people don't realize that when you say things like that, you're actually doing them a bigger disservice. When in 1870 to 1912, when nobody bothered black people, and I mean black people were left alone 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
No, but check this out, because people were still bothering them. Like the government, they had
sure. But you didn't have restriction on price and wages and
well, yeah.
what school you could go to. Like, you had control over that stuff.
Well, okay. So you couldn't go to a white school, but you didn't need to go to a white school because blacks had their own system. So the interference that came from the Reconstruction era were nothing but progressives making up policies like, the monopoly, antitrust laws.
Right.
Antitrust laws were trying to stop blacks from being so successful in agriculture, mechanical engineering, because why? Texas A&M only had, 30, 40 students the first year, 40 students versus millions of black people. And when you look at Plessy versus Ferguson, that dude bought a first-class ticket, wealthy man, had an attorney who was really bad at being an attorney, because what he should have done. No, but like, he was arguing, his whole argument was, I'm a white guy and I deserve this, not because I'm white, but then he admits to being 1/8 black. And admitting that, I'm thinking, what kind of an attorney? You know what I mean? It's like, dude, if you're going to go full white, just go full white. You know what I mean? It's like, What the hell? He could have won his case. Plessy could have won, but he didn't because his lawyer sucked. His lawyer, and it said too, the attorney in error might have brought up certain things that the courts considered. So the whole thing, whoever says Plessy versus Ferguson was how Woodrow Wilson got his whole mental, BS and how to do Jim Crow laws, they don't know what they're talking about. Jim Crow is Jim Crow because it became a national policy. And that was the staple of progressive ideology that was adopted by every single Democrat without Democrats even knowing that it was the true progressive party. Even though Roosevelt started a progressive party, but he did it in favor of, Woodrow Wilson. So that way Woodrow Wilson could become president.
Well, yeah, at the time, FDR was in the cabinet when Wilson was president. He was involved.
Yeah, all of these people.
Yeah, of course.
All of these people.
We can go into that in further episodes.
But Teddy Roosevelt was his dad.
No, his uncle, cousin.
Yeah, well, either way, but is he? Theodore Roosevelt? Teddy Roosevelt.
Speaking of, there's a great Ken Burns documentary that my friend keeps telling me to watch called The Roosevelts, and it's really, really long, but I still have to watch it. It'll give me a little bit more information about this.
Yeah, either way, so Theodore Roosevelt was a Republican, and FDR was, you're right. FDR was the,
but you said, I asked you about this yesterday, and we were talking about how there was a third party, which was the Progressive Party, because there was a split. The split here was he had no choice or something. I got to brush up on my history here.
No. He had a choice. But because he was such a, he had a choice. Roosevelt had a choice to not start the Progressive Party that year. But he did. He did it so that, because he really did. He felt sorry, and I feel sorry for blacks right now? Yeah. So I get accused of being a racist because I'm really pro-black all the time. So it's like, because like it's hard for me to see, black people just suffering as they do. So, I do what I can. If I see something, it bugs me. You know what I mean? But then does it bother me to see a white guy homeless doing drugs? Nah, it doesn't. But it's just me because, like, I'm not really white and I don't, you know what I mean? It's just how it is. Like, I'm fucked up in the head, I guess. But because you should feel bad for anybody who's suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, but it's just how so I understand how Roosevelt felt kinship for all these whites suffering after the war.
Right, and, because there was no Veterans Association, and there were no real ways of reintegrating people who were veterans who had fought in the Civil War, giving them adequate jobs, security, education that they needed, right?
Yeah.
And that's why these days, I mean, at least with our American armed forces, people are well taken care of for their service. Whereas, dude, this is Civil War. Like, forget it. You lose your leg, sucks for you, man. Like, you know what I
And
mean? You
all these
can't work.
blacks are doing so much better than us. So
I can
it's
see that. I can see that. But so let me ask you this too, because this is something that'll come up. Like, why is it that during the period of the Reconstruction, when it came to American history, right? How come this is not something that most people are aware of? Like the advent of Black Wall Street, because you talked about J.P. Morgan, right? Let's talk a little bit about how that started, because I mean, it all got burned down by the KKK in the early
well,
20th century. But
yeah, well, the building itself still exists, but you can still see like the J.P. Morgan in New York. You'll see where they blew it up with real bombs. You could see it to this day where they blew it up, and I'm thinking, yeah, But anyway, but that's what progressives do, and even in the History Channel, they'll acknowledge it that the progressives burnt it down. And see now, when people hear progressives, they think, oh yeah, the progressives that do that stupid. What's that thing? That I forgot what it's called, but the not Me Too. Before the Me Too movement, there was another big old thing that crazy old white people
Black
were
Lives
doing.
Matter?
No. That's before Black Lives Matter. No, but it's the White March. It was Me Too's white, and then the other one that's before Me Too, Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall
All those
Street. That's
crazy
it.
white people just running around in tents and shitting there. And
Can you tell me
and
more about that? I wasn't living in the United States when that went down. What was that specific?
oh god, it's just crazy bunch of white people just running around who are all rich and wealthy. No, because you've traveled the world, right? That's something
Yeah,
we have
well,
in common.
to some degree. But yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
yeah. To like we left the United States, so you have experience outside, so you see what it's like in other countries,
Right.
and you will know what. I don't care where you're at, where you're poor at in the United States. As poor as you are in the United States, homeless, whatever, you still are better
off
than
than
people in other countries. You can go
absolutely. I agree
like
100%.
it was insane. I've been all over the Middle East, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I seen people taking a shower in their house with no walls. They had a tin little shanty roof with poles, and they had a shower. And I'm thinking, these dudes are naked.
The
It's
highest
like,
level of poverty I had personally seen, which it's like, dude, I don't know why these people complain about this, is parts of Bangladesh. I went to Bangladesh, and I know that's not as bad as India, but believe me, it's a country that gets hit by floods like every 2 years, and it
yeah,
constantly gets destroyed. And it's like, stuff keeps falling apart, and the disease and the people like that, like that's real poverty. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I look in parts of India, I've never actually gone to India, but Bangladesh is pretty close. It's right next to it.
yeah,
I saw for 10 days that I was there poverty that is beyond what we see here in America. And people are complaining about poor people. Dude, if you're poor, you can go to an unemployment office down the street, or you could pick up a government check. I mean, case by case. But what I'm trying to say is those people, like when that guy in India is like naked and he's like potting pots with clay and stuff, like that's all he has, and he has to make it work if he wants to live.
yeah.
Don't have that here. Like I just
But that's crazy.
no, I'm
That's
serious. And parts of China is like that too. You go to some of
yeah.
these places and
Oh,
these provinces, it's like,
trust
and the
me,
people
it's
are
like that
happy.
in
The people are happy. People don't commit suicide in these countries. Suicide
yeah.
is a first world problem. It's when people have to make up their. I mean, I don't want to be insensitive here, but seriously, it's just like suicide is more common among people who are affluent, people who have privilege.
Yeah. No,
Like,
no, but it's the truth.
like it's like, have you ever heard of like poor people in third world countries, like suicide rates being really high? No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't
Exactly.
happen.
No, it's a first world problem.
The
It's
first
like,
world
dude, what are you
problem.
sad about? I can't have sex the way I want. And I'm thinking,
I
geez,
know.
no,
And
but
we got to
it's
talk about that too. We got to talk about the fact that young men are not having sex these days. The fertility rates. We can talk about that in another episode.
oh
But
god, no, but it's the truth. That's why it's so crazy. Gosh darn it. No, but anyway, so going back to all of this stuff, like Plessy versus Ferguson and all this other stuff, those were just progressives just trying to figure out how to destroy the black, success in the black population, because they were successful and they were dominating in business. They were dominating, and like a lot of the blacks had cab companies. They had, you know, just a lot of business.
Banks. They owned banks.
Yeah, well, because JP Morgan wasn't dumb. You know what I mean? Because he knew, I mean, come on, you got to roll with the times, and you got to roll with your punches. And JP Morgan did it. All these black bankers, gave way.
Well, so what? He gave them a lot. He gave him his money. I don't think that's what happened.
No. He didn't give him money. He gave him. Oh, no, because this is why JP Morgan was so smart. Okay, so what are you gonna do with all your money? And so JP Morgan, put it in my bank, and we'll make money together. That's what he did. He
interest. That's how banks make money, from you giving them money.
Yeah, and then they loan it out, do all the crazy things, and so they were financing the railway, which was ironic because they were financing so many things, and then oh gosh, you don't even want to. It's amazing when you really think about all of the things that they financed, and eventually they became excluded from using. But either way, that wasn't JP Morgan's intent, because he's not the one that writes the laws. There was a law written.
He's just a businessman. He's just a businessman looking for opportunity.
He was a businessman.
And if you really were like that, it's like if you truly were a businessman at that time period, you would be doing yourself a disservice by discriminating based on race, because it's like they would just go to somebody else. It's like if you don't take his business and he's black and you don't like black people, he'd just go down to the street and that Jewish guy would probably help the black guy. You know what I mean? It's like that's exactly what would happen.
I'll say it like this. The only way in business, he might have helped blacks, but we don't know if he was racist or not. And here's how I know someone's racist. If you won't bang a black chick, you're racist. That's it. If you won't bang her, then you're a racist person. And it's the same thing.
Okay, come on. You got to explain that. What?
No, because, but it's the truth. If you're come on. You can only be racist if you don't date somebody because of their race. How can anybody ever say that, black vagina or white vagina is different? As they say, when the lights go out, everybody's the same color.
Okay, come on. You got to level with me here for a second. What about all these people that are like, oh, dating preferences? I just don't date Asian dudes, or I don't date white people because white people bad. No,
I'm not talking about that. Because Muhammad Ali would only, because he said he would only marry a black woman because, but he was very specific. Muhammad Ali said he wouldn't date a black woman from Africa because he goes, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know how to cook for me. She doesn't know my music. She doesn't know anything because she's from Africa. I'm the only woman who's going to understand me is an American black woman, because she knows what I'm going through. And see, so that's different. That's not really, because God knows he probably was banging all kinds of broads, and that's what I see, because sexual, if your penis cannot get hard for a vagina, I don't care what race you are just a racist, because your hate for another race is so bad your penis can't get hard. And come on, that's how you know someone's racist. It's like, man, his penis won't get hard. You know what I mean? He'd rather have sex with a man versus,
that's gonna be another dialogue for another time. But I know what you're saying. So, that aside,
no, but it's true. I'm telling you, because you can still have racism in your heart, but if you can't bang somebody from the opposite race or a different race, come on, something is seriously wrong with you. It's like, man, that is insane. Because there was a joke, and this was like a Family Guy joke. I saw this on Family Guy. Thomas Jefferson was having a family photo. And he's, let's include the entire family. And then about 100 black people joined, all these little kids. I'm like, he might have owned slaves, but he was having fun. So it's like, come on. Are you really racist, or is that just the laws of the time, and people were,
We've already established the fact that slavery was born out of economics, not out of racism.
Yeah, well, because come on, other blacks sold.
No, of course.
Black people sold other blacks to
By
whoever was
now-
going to buy them.
And let me just say this here. I'm going to say this because we're the unfiltered truth here. It would have been better if you were an American slave rather than a North African slave sold in the Middle East. I'm just putting that out.
Or in South America.
Or in South America.
Or Central
You were better off
Or
as
in
a slave
Mexico.
in America than there. And people are going to be like, dude, how can you talk about it? But it's true.
Well, no, there's a great documentary called Being Black in Latin America on PBS. Dude, it's insanely good, even though it's from PBS. I didn't think they were going to be honest. And they were about 80% honest about what goes on in Central and Latin America, or even in Mexico. If you're black, if you're honestly black,
that's like
African.
that's what I mean by like real racism, as in they just cannot tolerate if you're different. And I can say that because Malaysia has very, very strong discrimination. And in fact, I think race-based discrimination is actually okay. Like people who don't go to these countries, who don't know China, don't know Malaysia, don't know countries outside of the United States, you come to the United States, I fail to see how racism exists. I mean, I know it does because there's idiots that will still feel like if you're a different race, they don't like you. But dude, in China, in Japan, and they're strong ethno states, Japanese people.
Yeah.
In Japan, they don't like you if you are a different race. I mean, I talked to my buddy Kyo. I've had him on a show before where he's black and he went to Japan. And that was fine because he was respectful and all that. But there is a strong sentiment where it's like, dude, if you're black, you are going to be treated differently, hands down. In America, okay, it may happen on a case-by-case basis because someone's an idiot, but it doesn't work against you. But that's why, okay, anyways, what I was saying about the whole slavery thing, economics, not racism. In America, solely based on economics.
But I want to go back to the Japanese thing. See now, no, because I have an extensive background, and I remember I worked with some of their judo champions.
Yeah.
And dude, like the parents who never met me were sending me presents because I helped their kid and all, and they knew I was black. But I'm telling you now, if I would have been banging any Japanese broad, they would have killed me.
No. You're not lying. You're not lying.
That's the
Japanese
thing. In business, and that's where I get that ideology about business. You can't tell just because they're nice to you. You can't say, they're racist. No. You know if someone's racist by how you are. Because like the dudes, they didn't care. They're like, oh yeah, let's go party, da, and they don't care because the young people, they just don't care. But the older people, oh no, I guarantee you, if they would have caught me banging some Japanese broad, they would have been pissed. And because it's just like, what's going on? You the big giant. No, come on. Yeah. You don't.
No, but you're not wrong when you say that, because I talk about this on my channel too, where just here's the thing. You go to your white parents in America and you say you're dating somebody of a different race, and let's just use black as an example. It is not the same as if you went to your Chinese fresh off the boat parents and said the same thing.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just putting that out there. It's a cultural shock to people. Like, they cannot comprehend that you can like a black man. And I hate to say it, man, but black people, you guys are discriminated against in some of these countries.
and
for reals, not in America, but there, it's just like...
No, but even in the U.S., where does it come from? It comes from Darwin. There is scientific proof that blacks are gorillas. And people still say that. All these people clinging on to Darwin as a great scientist and he's correct. No, that's a bunch of crap. Darwin was probably one of the worst scientists ever. He just was really good at observing things. He made observations.
Observing, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did. He's like, well, blacks kind of look like gorillas. Gorillas got black fur and blacks got black skin.
Well, here's the thing, and a lot of that is based off of the fact that there's shared phenotypes. That, you know what I mean? If you study biology, it's like you've got some shared genetic traits. Well, you know what? At some point, even though we're all very distant, the DNA of all life on Earth are going to have some degree of reoccurring patterns. Why?
No, not because some degree, a massive degree. Like, I think we're
I say that for a lot of science. sympathizers out there where it's like your DNA compared to a frog's DNA. Oh, there's going to be some crossover. Don't get me wrong. We live on the same
not
planet.
some. It's a lot. No, I'm
Okay,
not
it's
kidding
a
you.
lot.
Like, you know, like our DNA compared to a tree's DNA is about 70%
Yeah. No.
the
But
same.
that's what I'm
That's
saying. So
insane.
how, what I'm trying to say is I think that he rolled with that. He rolled with the idea that there's some similarities, right? And there's a lot of crossover where it's just like, okay, say you are a primate and you evolved from something, right? Then there's already this overarching, like, that means everyone is related. It's just that some people are further down than others. But I think that that's what is used to fuel a particular sentiment towards a race of people, because the whole Darwin racism thing I think is well documented. Like, that's not what most people are surprised by. I think that we just kind of accept a lot of these scientific theories just because they've been presented in our classrooms for at least 100 years. I can tell you this: before progressivism took hold strongly in the academic institution, that wasn't the case. You were taught both things, and God was still something that you were taught. Now, obviously, we don't have to go down that road, but you were taught that stuff in schools 100 years ago.
Well, but check this out. Woodrow Wilson was the president of Yale.
Princeton University.
Yeah, Princeton University.
Princeton.
And being the president of a university as a strong, staunch believer of progressive ideology and that blacks come from gorillas. Come on, that's been like
it's
progressives.
standard. It becomes the standard. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but progressives had a stronghold in academia ever since Woodrow Wilson became president of a prestigious university like Princeton. That was one of the big three. It was Harvard, Princeton, Yale. Everybody, and it's the truth. When you look at today, every single president, every single Supreme Court justice, whatever, anybody of major prominence to this day, Supreme Court, president, I think the only exceptions would be Ronald Reagan and Trump. They all went to either Harvard, Princeton, or Yale, without exception. And it's scary.
I don't know about that, but yeah, we'll have to check. Yeah.
It's just look at the Supreme Court. It's really scary to, like, if you look at the Supreme Court in the past, since 1912, they all went to Harvard. Even like Clarence Thomas, he went to Harvard. Everybody went to Harvard. It's insane how that one institution is responsible for all of our Supreme Court decisions. I mean, and we're lucky that, that Clarence Thomas was able to come out the way he came out without being indoctrinated. And a lot of these guys, like Ted Cruz, he went to Harvard. Ted Cruz is a prominent guy, and he went to Harvard Law. And that's kind of, Obama went to Harvard Law, which is, he didn't escape. That guy was more progressive than Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, no, but he also had, we've seen the history of Obama now that it's been more closely revealed. It's like, he was taken from the book of Saul Alinsky, community organizer, same guy who trained Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton. It's just like,
yeah, no, but it's scary because for centuries, progressives have been trying to destroy the black race and doing all these things, coming up with crazy policies and all this other stuff to destroy black people. But under Obama, and all you got to do is just look at Chicago, look at the inner cities. For the first time in American history, the black death rate, when you include abortions, because you have to include abortions and all this other stuff. When you include abortions and street violence and all this other stuff, for the first time in American history, the black birth rate was lower than the black death rate. And that was only under Obama. And is it getting better now? We don't know because the data's not out. but that's how serious of a progressive Obama was.
Yeah.
Put it on the pedal.
No. Anti-colonial roots was, hey, step back from the microphone a bit because it's popping. Yeah. That's a good position. But yeah, like, I think that we need to talk about this. Like, progressivism is something that I think we'll constantly revisit on this show, even when it comes to lifestyle. When we talk,
because it has. You know why we always got to keep talking about this? Because nobody believes that progressive ideology in 2019 is you're just a racist, whether you're black or
I think
white.
that, yeah, well, even a lot of conservatives don't talk about progressivism in the way where it's just rooted in racist ideology. It's rooted
Because they're
in
gutless. I'm
well,
not kidding you.
but here's the
They're all
thing. And,
gutless.
well,
They
we'll
are.
talk
That's
about
why
it.
they don't talk about it.
We'll talk about it. But what I'm
Yeah,
saying is,
because we're going to be challenged on this, because everyone's going to challenge you, and they're going to say, no, you can't say that Kamala Harris is a racist. Yeah, we can. She's just like a slave owner back when slavery was legal.
well, I think
30%.
her ancestors were from Jamaica. But yeah.
No, but no. There was an analogy. The analogy is this.
But the truth is, her ancestors actually did own slaves. That was proven.
Really?
Funny as hell. That's the funniest thing. It's like that totally
because she was running for
no.
president.
But her ancestors actually owned slaves. That's a real thing. It's funny.
So
Just like finding that out is just like I don't think I've heard her talk since. Like, I mean, maybe she has. I just don't pay attention. But it's still
I had no idea.
But let's take it back to progressive ideas for a second, because we have to also think about the basis for what it's rooted in. It's a departure from constitutional values, which means God-given rights, right? The government, people, man, if you want to say that, which means whoever's in power is the one who constructs your rights and determines your freedoms. Therefore, they're always for bigger government control. But conservatives, and the way the founders had intended, is those are rights that were given to you. You're a human being. You're born with certain unalienable rights, freedom, liberty, all that stuff. But when you put that power into the laws of man and government, the result is always going to be the same. You see what I mean? So it's the idea that we need to create freedoms for people. Therefore, we determine how much freedom you get. And it's like, who's to define what freedom is? Which is why it's like, if you just left everybody alone, but you just made sure that you had a government to take care of the sick people, the mentally ill, and law enforcement at the state and local level, hey, that's actually how it's supposed to be. But
and that's what reminds me of UBI. See, because what you said totally reminds me of UBI, because UBI is the government telling you, hey, you know what? Have a certain amount of money every month and you'll be able to do all of these things.
And the thing is, Mao was doing something similar in his Great Leap Forward. I can't believe I still haven't made a video about this, but I was going to do a thing where maybe we can talk about it now, where aspects of Mao's Great Leap Forward line up very, very closely with AOC's Green New Deal. Not like it's the same stuff, but the patterns are the same, which is kind of like, let's try to make an entire country function like this, produce like this. Everybody's entitled to a standardized amount, right?
Yeah.
And what did it do?
I don't know shit about Mao, and
okay.
no, like,
it's like,
I want to learn more about the man.
Okay, so aside from the ins and outs of the Great Leap Forward and AOC's Green New Deal, let's also keep in mind that Mao was not exactly an economic genius. A lot of this stuff were experiments. Cultural Revolution, Great Leap Forward. It's just like, hey, let's try industrializing all of China, however many millions of people, and get them to adhere to this type of production and this type of manufacturing. And it didn't work, obviously.
You want to know what's funny?
60 million people died, so it's just...
No, but that's my point. Well, it's not my point. Yeah, it's going to be my point. See, none of these people are great economists. None of them.
FDR was not a great economist either.
No,
we got to talk about that.
It was Woodrow Wilson. None of these people knew anything about business. So how are they going to make things work? They were going to kill people for it. Hitler did it. He was like, you know what? We'll kill them. And then once we kill them, we take their money, because we will not allow them to pass along their, because seriously, I'm assuming Mao, the people he killed, had nothing to pass on to whoever was left behind. So he just took the money to fund whatever it is he wanted to fund.
Dude, it's messed up when the government instills a death tax. You know that?
Yeah.
You have to pay when somebody dies.
But that's what Wilson did. He started a death tax.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all this. It's like I remember hearing this on a finance show. It's like, dude, I can't even afford to, number one, not just bury the guy, but I gotta pay taxes on his estate because he's dead.
I'm telling you that.
And then it's like, if you don't do the laws properly, Uncle Sam takes all your stuff. Like, if the will isn't right and you don't do it right, the government can actually
take your
repossess.
stuff.
Yeah, like, how messed up is that?
No, but that's how it's done because the government will not function without that money. And that's why, God, people don't even know why I'm against the government, but that's why.
I mean,
Seriously. Like when I see a government employee and I work for the government, and I always felt like, this is just welfare. It's like, we do nothing seriously, we do nothing for anybody. And we're just getting taxes. I said, we're on welfare.
well, like a lot of these agencies, think about what they're mostly composed of, right? It's not really a mission statement to help people. It's just a way of policing people further in respective departments. Department of Agriculture doesn't help with growth of agriculture. It's there to police agriculture. Department of Education is not there to improve education. It's just to make sure that you're adhering to a checklist of 1,001 things. Otherwise, you know what? No school for you. That's all it is.
Yeah. No, but that's why. And then the whole idea about UBI is even crazy because I'm thinking, who comes up with these ideas? Well, I know who came up with the idea of welfare. That was Woodrow Wilson, because, oh gosh, darn it. But see, he was smart, because you got to respect his intelligence for coming up with these ideas to destroy people. It's like one of them evil, because, I like comic books and things like that. So
Yeah.
I always like how sinister people always are so evil. Dude, that's Woodrow Wilson. He was just a really bad comic book character, but he fought, so eventually he's going to lose. And that's
And it was carried out by, like, obviously LBJ, FDR, and later.
It was stopped for a while. Like Eisenhower, I want to say honest to Buddha, but he honestly
really?
was, because I always want to stop myself from saying, saying God so much. So like I say Buddha. But anyway, Eisenhower was responsible for Brown versus the Board of Education. And he was also, he did a lot of things with the Civil Rights Act of 57. So it was actually stopped in the 50s, but it was restarted by LBJ in 64. And believe it or not, with Martin Luther King's help, he helped bring back Jim Crow. When you look at the 1964 Civil Rights Act, it's just another Jim Crow law. They made segregation legal again.
In education.
Illegal
right.
in the 50s, and it became legal in the 60s.
So let me dissect this a bit for people who aren't too familiar with this concept. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 that we're taught as being what broke down the end of segregation in the South, whether it came to, separate eating places, like go through this door because you're a black person. Am I to understand that Civil Rights Act was more racist when it came about in 64? Hey, you can't discriminate based on race.
No, but in short, I'm not kidding you. The greatest hoax of modern history would be MLK Jr. That's the greatest hoax of all time. And people don't see that. That's the greatest hoax because
you're peddling some Alex Jones level stuff right now.
All of these things. Yeah, no, but it's but look at it. That's why, how come I'm able to say,
yeah.
Can you hear me?
No, yeah, but I want to hear you say this. I want to hear you say this because I'm not refuting because I don't know. I know that there's a 57 Civil Rights Act that. Well, here's the thing. One thing that we know for sure is that the growth, right, of black succession slowed down in the 60s. It was going up in the 50s with employment, with blacks doing well, and then it became slowed down after the 64 Civil Rights Act. I believe it's because it added a literacy test or something. That's something that we talked about.
Well, yeah, in voting, there was a literacy test because
Voting Rights Act too.
Yeah. Well, no, the Voting Rights Act was 65, so they took it out in 65. So there was a guy named Arthur Flesher, who the guy like the father of affirmative action and things like that. He was a hardcore conservative. He was like, "Hey, man, MLK Jr. was wrong." And so he had to do affirmative action. He had to do all of these things to give back the rights that were won in the 50s. So, but that's neither here nor there. The real thing is this.
Yeah.
What the progressives wanted to do was resegregate the schools because they knew without education, if everybody had a proper education, guess what? Crime goes down. You can't criminalize behavior the way we can if everybody's stupid. If everybody's smart, guess what? You're not going to go to crime because you have options. And but if you're dumb, um, fuck, crime is the way to go. Like when you have no opportunities, you're going to jump into crime. Why? Because that's what we do in the street. Because we don't have opportunities. I didn't have a good education. Seriously, I didn't. I was just an athlete. And I jumped into crime real easily. Why? Because I was stupid. I had no education. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Seriously, I was going to join the military, but I thought, no, I want to be an officer. But I didn't have the education to be an officer, but I knew these dudes were lying to me about, because I tried out for something and, I did it for a bit and I couldn't swim. So I was like, hey, wait a minute. How could I do this if I don't know how to swim? So anyway, they were trying to scam me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
We were talking about Martin Luther King and civil
going
rights.
back to this hoax, everybody believed in Martin Luther King being this great, great man. And he was a great man. He was a great leader, but he had a lot of skeletons in his closet. So the FBI was able to use that and get him to go along with the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And
he was killed though, I think, before it passed.
No. He was killed in, I think, 1968.
Oh.
So they needed him to keep. I don't know when he died, but he died afterwards. But anyway, so because the thing is like this, why would a guy like that, supposedly so great, down for civil rights, why would he advocate for blacks to take a literacy test when there was no literacy test needed to vote? Why would he do that? Why would he advocate for segregation of the schools when the schools were already desegregated? All the schools were desegregated in the 50s after Brown versus the Board of Education. How and why? Because Eisenhower put the military on white people for the first time in American history.
National Guard, right? Yeah.
Yeah. National Guard, the Army, was put on white people so these people can go to school. Think about that. You know how scary that was for white people?
But that makes sense because in the 50s, some of these black kids needed army escorts to go to school because people were throwing stuff at them.
Threatening to kill them.
And this was in the 50s, right? Not in the 60s. But Eisenhower obviously was the real advocate of Civil Rights Act because,
that's real civil rights.
That's real civil rights, yeah. It's like, no. These kids are going to go to school and it doesn't matter that they're black.
Yeah. No, but and so the stuff in the 60s is just like Occupy Wall Street, just a bunch of stupid people running around not knowing what's going on. And nobody ever read the law. So LBJ knew. LBJ knew, and all of the people in Congress. Well, not see, but that's the thing. And the 64 Civil Rights Act wasn't that long, but that's how stupid our politicians are. They don't even read the law, like the Affordable Care Act. Who read that? Who read the Affordable Care Act? Seriously, nobody. But they passed the law without reading it, and that's what Congress does.
Yeah, and you're right, because I wanted to always talk about this because I'm a little bit informed when it comes to employment law, a little bit. But here's the thing, right? The big takeaway that everybody advocates for with the Affordable Care Act, I know we're jumping around, but I want to jump back. The Affordable Care Act, the big thing that people are like, no, we have to get this passed was because it wouldn't deny you health care with a pre-existing condition. But we've had that since the 70s.
Yeah, no, but
HIPAA.
Seriously.
Isn't that what HIPAA is about? Is not denying somebody based on a pre-existing condition. I mean, feel free to correct me. I may be wrong about this, but it's like, what is that clause giving us that we already didn't have? I mean,
so HIPAA is part of that, but you got to think about it like this. There is no, I can only speak for California. I have never seen any hospital deny anybody in the ER because they don't have insurance. I've never
Oh,
seen.
no, that doesn't happen. They just send you a fat bill afterwards. That's what
Yeah, and if you
happens.
give them a fake address, who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's why it's everybody's so foolish. As they say, feces. It's not
Trying to
even.
watch your language there. I gotta keep the show
Yeah,
clean.
no, but it's the truth. It's like, come on, no one's being denied rights. Gay people. If you're a family member and if you wanted to visit somebody, and I've never seen gay people being denied services or told they can't come in. I've never seen anybody get denied any services, and I've seen people fight in the ER room, and we still didn't kick them out. I mean, we stopped the fights, but to the best of our ability. But no, but nobody was ever denied. It's all a myth. And then you have all these people. Oh no, we're denied medicals. No, you're not.
And what
You
I
were
don't
told to go
understand,
home.
what I don't understand is, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just peddling here. ACA, the big thing is we're not going to deny people coverage based on pre-existing condition. But if that was government sanctioned healthcare and you already had private healthcare, wouldn't it be doing private industry a disservice if they were discriminating based on pre-existing
Well,
conditions?
no, because okay, so the Affordable Care Act is still private. The ACA is everything is still private. Nothing's changed. The difference is the government made a deal with these insurance companies to make a boatload of money, and so it's insane. Like the government is, it's okay. So basically, it's like this is what fascism is. ACA is total
Government controlling
control
industry.
over an industry. Exactly. That's all it is. Kind of like how everybody has to have car insurance. And so
That is fascist. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to be like, there's certain things that we have to do in order to operate certain vehicles and all that.
yeah, no, but we got to get rid of insurance altogether. It's a bunch of BS. Like seriously, why do we need insurance? We don't need it. It's oh man, it just started but that's what fascism does. Fascism starts something and then it turns into this big giant ugly monster that doesn't belong. It just doesn't belong. Just like how, well, this is gonna sound crazy because it's like maybe 80% true, but the criminal justice system's the same way. It's it's just a form of like justice shouldn't be controlled by the government. It should be handled by the individual. And but of course we need a judge, like an impartial judge, an arbitrator or something
And
like that.
you need to grant people a fair jury. You need a fair trial.
Yeah,
You
so
need
you
all that
need
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying it's like 80% true. But the thing is, the jury is supposed to be your peers. It's not supposed to be the way how it's done. Like it's supposed to be extremely hard to get a conviction. Or if there's a dispute, like a civil dispute, it should really be like common sense type of stuff. Like the Hatfield and McCoys, like they should, battle it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is, people go, oh, we don't want it to be and everybody's always saying, oh, we don't want it to be the wild, wild west. But in reality, it's more dangerous here in inner cities than it is in the Wild West. The Wild West wasn't this crazy thing where everybody was getting killed because, and then people, it's like, oh, well, what do you want? Lynchings? You want lynchings to come back? I'm like, yeah, because it'll be safer for us. If you're trying to lynch me, good luck. That's why we weren't lynched that much. It wasn't like lynchings were happening every day, like how people are getting killed in Chicago every day. Every day in Chicago, you can guarantee yourself 3 or 4 people are going to be shot dead.
Yeah.
Every day, without exception. But were people getting lynched 3 people at a time every day in any city or anywhere in the country? No. So
and the largest mass lynching in history was what, 16 people in New Orleans, Italians being
something
lynched?
like that. I forgot the exact number, but it's the truth. And it weren't even, they were white people. It wasn't blacks. It was 13 Italians. That's why Italians hate blacks.
That's why Italians don't like black people, because y'all got lynched.
Because of that lynch. Oh God, yeah. Because it's a whole historical thing where. Okay,
I just think. Well, I mean, real quick before you get to that point, I just think that we blanket a lot of this stuff. People will just say like, "Well, Irish will never." It's like, dude, Irish have had it worse than Asians in America. I will say that right here. If you were Irish historically in America, you probably were worse off than an Asian person. I mean, Asians, like, we've been discriminated against, you know, concentration camps if you're Japanese, you know, immigration quota if you're Chinese. Like, I get it, right? But it's like Irish,
Well, the
Italians, like
Chinese
you guys had stuff.
Yeah, well, the Irish had, yeah. I believe Irish and Chinese people probably had it equally horrible. And like, because there's blacks,
Yeah.
and then Chinese, and then the Irish, like, had it really bad. Well, I mean, because I'm thinking, who else had it bad in this country? Japanese didn't have it that bad.
Well, World War II concentration camps, but
Nah, but it wasn't that bad. Seriously, in those concentration camps, it wasn't that bad when you really consider, like, if you have to rank what happened with between all the races, because who else?
oh, you really want to play victim Olympics? Let's do it. Yeah.
But you can't. Who else was put in concentration camps in World War II? The Italians and the Germans. So German, people
Wait, what do you
were put
mean
in the
Germans were put into concentration camps in America?
yeah. The Germans were too. The Italians were put in
Oh.
concentration camps, and so were the Germans.
I
And
see.
the Japanese. But see, the Japanese got the most play because they weren't stupid. You know what I mean? Because they were like, they parlayed that into money. When they left, they got like $25,000 each. It wasn't just like one person. See, like in the 1800s.
Dude, this stuff is ridiculous. Like everything.
How do you think the Japanese made it here? The Chinese did all the work, and then no, but it's the truth. The Chinese did all the work, and then the Japanese, you know what? They spent a little time in jail, got 25 grand each. That's what happened. What do you think happened? I mean, come on. What, you think the Japanese are that, industrious in this country?
I don't know about that. I just know that from personal anecdotes of my family's history and what I know about Chinese immigrants into America.
See,
railroads, grocery stores, liquor stores. That's us. Laundromats, like that's what we did.
But you made the same mistake that a lot of whites do. See, because whites lump all white people in one big homogenous group, but they're not. There's Italian.
They're not. Yeah. No, I know Irish people for a fact fared worse off than Asians in this country.
Yeah. Well,
as far as discrimination is concerned,
with the exception of Chinese. See, because the Chinese were literally being hunted down. Like you can, an Irish can get a job to shoot a Chinese dude, but it's the truth. So that's why Chinese are. I mean, because it's first is blacks because they had a fucked up time here, and then the Chinese because they have, and then you have to go with Irish people. If you have to really rate them, it's blacks, Chinese, Irish, and then fourth would be
Italians. Italians had it pretty bad.
No, they had it pretty bad, but I would say, trying to think who else had it pretty bad. Yeah, I guess it would be the Italians would be fourth because they like I said, they had to endure a lot of lynchings. They did because and it wasn't just lynchings. I mean, we would just kill. I only say we. I'm meaning black people. Black people would just have to kill them because they were poor, they were stealing, and blacks had no
Italians were stealing from blacks.
Yeah, because so back in the 1800s, see, this all came about in during the Reconstruction era, because again, another progressive ideology. I see, and this is why I wanted to talk about this yesterday. I wish I was better informed, or just remembered Plessy versus Ferguson, because I was like, what the fuck? When you brought that up, I was like, ugh. But anyway, so with immigration, see, immigration has always been a policy to destroy black people. So in the 1800s, the government goes, you know what? We got to bring in immigrants to do our work because white people American whites don't know how to farm and they don't know anything about machinery. So who knows about this stuff? Okay, Greeks, but that's too far. What about the Italians? Oh yeah, boom, that's right there. We can get them right from across the ocean and bring them over real easy . So what happened? They brought a whole bunch of Italians, and it wasn't the rich Italians. It was the broke Italians, like what we see in the wetback community today from Mexico. It's not the rich Mexicans. It's the wetbacks that you know that have to come over here and do this farming stuff. That's how it works. You know what I mean? Who comes? The educated? Hell no. It's the stupid ones. You know, it's you know, it's just how, and they're proud of it. They call each other mojados and stuff like that. Hey, mojado, or they say piquero. You know, a piquero is the guy that picks the crowd. Hey, piquero power. But that's how they are. It's stupid. But it's the poorest of the Italians came over here with nothing. And you got to remember at the time, was there social services like how the wetbacks get today? I mean, I shouldn't say wetbacks. Well, I mean, because
illegal immigrants, people get offended, but who cares?
No, but there's this distinction between, see, because this is like I'm really ghetto when it comes to certain things, because this is how I make distinctions. There's like regular Mexicans who are smart, and then all the wetbacks, you know, who are uneducated.
What do you mean regular Mexicans who are smart and all the?
No, because it's just like any other country. There's all the educated people, and then there's the poor people, and the poor people get a special name. So same poor people that, you know, with the P's and stuff like that, you know, like
I get it. But I know what you were saying though. I mean,
so, but anyway, so when you see these Italians, I don't know what they call them, the spaghetti benders. That's what they used to call them. All the spaghetti.
Serious? Benders. Spaghetti bender? Oh wow, really now?
That we used to call them that. Spaghetti bender.
What in the world?
Hey, spaghetti bender.
Ravioli roller. That's what I am. Spaghetti bender.
So that's actually a good one too. No, but we used to call them spaghetti benders.
Oh man, that's funny as.
So all the spaghetti benders, you know, the ones who weren't educated, and all this other stuff. So they knew this. So all of these dudes came over here, but then how were they going to get equipment? They had no money. The plantations owners weren't giving out money. They already were making deals with the people who knew how to do things already. So what were the Italians doing? They were stealing. And then so since the police, you know, and only blacks had these types of machines. And so they were stealing from black people. Black people could not go to the police and say, hey, look, man, this white dude is stealing from me. Well, you got proof? You witnessed it? No, but look, he has it. I bought it. He had no money back then. So what happened? They took matters into their own hands and they started lynching the Italians. So the Italians, and they were getting lynched by a lot. And so when you see like 100 people getting lynched over time, that's a lot of people for back then. 200 people, that's a lot. So the government, the American government even gave reparations to the Italians, the government, because, you know, the government was like, hey man, what's happening to all our Italian people getting killed in America by, you know, for trying to work? You guys said that if they got here to America, there's gonna be a lot of opportunity for them. So in America, we gave Italy 25 grand as reparations for what happened to them, that what black people did to the Italians. And that's why Italians and blacks don't get along in New York or on the East Coast so much, because Italians never forget. You ask any Italian, they'll tell you, yeah, you moolies did this and that, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what a moolie is, but that's what they call us, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? It's, I'm telling you, there's deep history between blacks and Italians, why we don't like each other. And it's basically, it's over what happened and how we did that to them. And that's why I think, yeah, I guess Italians could be number 4 if you were to rank. But then they too got reparations. They didn't get reparations for being at the concentration camps, but the Japanese did. And that's why, you know, the Japanese people, come on, nothing happened to them other than that. It was just a little bit of time. I mean, it sucks because, trust me, there is nothing worse than having your rights taken away. But, you know, everybody's gone through that, except for Mexicans. Mexicans have never been discriminated against in this country. They were white, and there always will be white, because, you know, a lot of people get confused about this. Your country of origin does not determine your race. You can come from Africa, which is a continent, and be white or black. And, you know, you could, you know, are all African Americans black? No, There's a whole bunch of people from South Africa who are African, and they're white.
I'm from Johannesburg. Do I look black to you?
So, but anyway, so and that's the thing. So, I like, just for fun, I like to rate who got it worse in this country. But I'm telling you, it's really hard to say that anybody had it worse than blacks, and then Chinese are right up there. And I honestly believe institutional racism only applies to blacks and Chinese.
Dude,
Because
affirmative action still hurts us very, very deeply today. But people are just like, it's affirmative action. Who gives a but it's like, it's real. I mean, that's the only real form of race-based discrimination that still exists for Chinese people, as far as I know.
yeah, well, it's opposite. See, it's opposite. See, that's how smart progressives are.
Yeah.
They know how to take care of you on the low end, which is pretty easy, but they also know how to get rid of you on the high end.
So they keep you in this perpetual state of you don't get anywhere.
Well, here's the thing. As long as Asians don't go to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, they will never be in charge of anything.
Dude, wait, that makes sense. Why people are complaining about, they call them bamboo ceilings, because they're called bamboo ceilings, where it's like, how come we don't see Asians in positions of great power unless they founded those companies, right? Or they're in politics or whatever. Politics, that's it. Everybody who's prominent in politics went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Wharton, Brown, UPenn.
Yeah.
Asians, as long as we keep them out of the highest ranking academic institutions, they'll never hold positions of power because of affirmative action.
Yep, that's right. Because they figured this out in the 1800s. You could be a powerful person, rich as fuck, but as long as you didn't go to those institutions, you're never going to make it. Look at what's her face, Sarah Breedlove, Madam C.J. Walker. Yeah. First female self-made millionaire in this country.
A black woman.
Yeah, she was black. She was buying politicians left and right. But buying a politician doesn't guarantee that you're going to get your way, because there's other politicians you have to fight.
Yeah. And you got to fight lobbyists day and night. Like, that's your job. And
that's why they were never afraid. Like, to this day in 2019, do they fear rich Asians? No, because they didn't go to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, and they're still stopping them from going to these schools.
As a matter of fact, the richest Asians, right, for the most part, are one of two things. They did well, they worked hard here in this country and didn't go to those schools, or they came from overseas. So they've got like some overseas money. But that's really, like, I know that's a sweeping generalization, but that's one thing that I can say. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's accurate.
When people talk about institutionalized racism and the real form of it with Asians, right? It's funny how a lot of people who advocate for progressivism are saying things like, well, there's a bamboo ceiling, there's a glass ceiling for Asians. It's like, yeah, do away with affirmative action and you'll see us completely kill it. We will dominate all industries and academic institutions if you do away with that. And
and here's the thing, there's already proof of that. There was an article written by this chick for the Wall Street Journal a long time ago. This is like maybe in the 90s or early 2000s. It's called White Flight. It was about how all the white people left Cupertino, where Apple's at. And it's all Asia now. It's mostly Chinese in Cupertino.
Tons of them. Cupertino is like 90% Koreans and Chinese.
Yeah, it's insane. But that article is so good. It truly explains how, the Asians just took it over, just through academics and being superior in this and that, and that's how you do it. In a free market society, that's how you do it. The best people win.
Merit and hard work.
Yeah. But then that's why you need the government to stop that. And that's how it's always been. They did it to blacks in the 1800s, Reconstruction era. And they're doing it to Asians now in 2019, all through progressive ideology.
One of the biggest lawsuits right now that's still in the works that I keep up with is the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard University. It's all about affirmative action.
God, I don't know that one case, because I was following Fisher versus the Texas of that was a good one. And because she was white, I thought she was going to win. Man, she didn't win.
But so I want to go back to another thing, and this is where we can get a little bit more casual about it. Is that why Black people and Asian people, specifically Chinese, get along? I don't know what it is. I am not saying this just because of me. My dad has said that, and my grandfather has said that. My great grandfather said that. It's like Chinese
Yeah,
and
it's
Black people,
weird.
Chinese and Jews, like y'all just get along. Like
Yeah, I have no idea
I
why.
don't know what that is. Is it just like we don't even really have cultural similarities? If anything, Chinese and Jews have more in common than Chinese and Black people.
No, no, no. You guys sure like hip hop. It's the truth. One of
It's
my
true.
good friends,
That's a big thing. It's like Chinese,
no,
like
but like one of my go-to
it's always
guys.
Black music. Like Chinese people like Black inspired music. So if it's Motown, blues, hip hop, like Chinese
Yeah,
people
dude, I'm
like
not kidding.
hip hop.
I've never seen it, but no, one of my go-to guys, because and I hate to say things like this, but most of my friends, if not all of my friends, are Black. And but in business, and he's one of my friends. Like but he's more like a business friend because I really don't have a lot of friends. I only have the same friends I've had since for decades, right? So I don't make new friends because I'm an old man. So I ain't gonna make new friends. But but one of my like really good associates is a Chinese dude. He's my go-to guy. If I want to throw a party, at a club that I might be running or something, I go to Jackson. I go to my boy, and dude, he's like hello ghetto. Like he grew up in a Black neighborhood in somewhere around Daly City or something like that. But the dude takes to crime like a fish to water. It's like, but he's smart. No, he got a nice crib, like a really cool house and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, because I know personal things about him too. So he goes through the same things that you would see a lot of Black people go through. You know what I mean? Like as far as family, like dysfunctional family. His family's close. He's still close with his dad. His dad ran a liquor store in a Black neighborhood. So,
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. It's just like there's a lot of crossover, like Asian laundromats and Asian restaurants. You'll find them like close to Black neighborhoods. Like it's just like
yeah.
there's a lot of transactions that go on. As a matter of fact, there's no greater example of the streets and don't mess with my stuff. Man, I saw this in Oakland. I saw like a Vietnamese lady, right? Like
Yeah.
take a bigger Black woman outside. This is like a nail salon or whatever, right? And like smack the hell out of her for like talking rude to her or whatever. And I thought it was like the funniest thing, but it makes sense because like some of these like old school, when I say old school Asians, I mean not new school that went to college. I'm talking like don't mess with my laundromat. Like don't come into my restaurant. Like don't mess with them. Like they actually will kick you out. Like so it was just the funniest thing because it's like this little Vietnamese lady. She's like 4 feet tall. And she's just like smacking the heck out of this Black woman. I mean, I'm not saying it because it's funny, but apparently she had crossed her and was just like, no, you don't do this here. And it's just like, whoa.
Because they're old school. They don't care.
They don't care. They're savage too. Like they don't hold back.
But that's how it used to be. If you're acting out in public, you're able to hit them. There's that because I
this
grew
was
up
in Oakland, dude. I didn't know that stuff still went on. I was just like, this is in the middle of the street. It's like we're out on Fruitvale Avenue right here, where it's just like, what is going on?
No, I'm not kidding. In the old days, like, because when I was growing up, it was pretty mixed. Like, there was a few Asian families, a few like Samoan, Tongans. Like when I was growing up, we had Tongan, Samoans, like Asians, like Vietnamese, Filipino, Chinese. The only ones we didn't have was Japanese. We had that's what I'm saying. I'm telling Japanese people, I don't ever remember.
They're preppier. They don't live in low income neighborhoods. I have never met a
No,
Japanese
they never
person.
did. Like I'm trying to think.
No, Chinese, Vietnamese, Cambodians, and Black people.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of. No, I learned something from these Cambodian dudes.
Cambodians? Okay, Cambodians have had it worse.
And Laotian people.
Laotian people. Yeah. But Cambodians legitimately have had it worse than Chinese people. I will say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know, like, because I don't know their historical, like, I really don't know.
There's a whole, like, genocide that happened in Cambodia. A lot of immigrant families came over, and they all settled in, like, Long Beach and, Compton and all.
Yeah. See, that was it. Because I'm telling you now, we had a lot of that. Oh, dude, the best fight I've ever seen was the Tonga versus Samoan. Dude, it was the best fight ever.
What?
Oh yeah, it was. No, because this is the kind of stuff you would see because Oh God, it was intense. It was intense. Like one guy, because we used to call them choco sticks, those nunchucks, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They used to be called choco sticks. I don't know why they changed the name, but one dude, like the Tongan dude, had a chain, and the Samoan had the choco sticks.
Like the nunchucks.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was the greatest fight ever. It was badass. I mean, they were bleeding from their head and just hitting each other, and it was great. And but anyway, so no,
It's
but
great.
it was weird. Because like back then we had like those Cambodians knew this weird style of martial arts that no one ever seen before. And oh man, them dudes. I mean, they were little, but but they knew how to fight. So, but anyway, sorry about that.
No worries.
But yeah. But now I want to get back on point with institutional racism. I'm going to read this so everybody knows what it is, because well, do I really want to get into it? Nah, I guess not. We can get into this another time. But
Black people, Asian people,
yeah, they had it.
racism.
No, but in all honesty, only Chinese and we could talk about this because I don't want to open up another can of worms. But only Chinese and blacks can honestly ever claim institutional racism.
Oh yeah, I claim that all the time. But my go-to is affirmative action. It's the one I know the most about. I mean,
but affirmative action is not really a law written against Chinese in specific. It's for all Asians and for anybody who's a minority. But no, but there was specific laws literally written that said Chinese people cannot work in California, or Chinese people cannot go to, like literally says in the law, a Negro cannot do this, a Negro cannot do that. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Only Chinese and blacks can make that claim. Nobody else. Like, well, I guess people. So, what about the Native American Indians?
I think Chinese with their Chinatowns when they were first brought to America, right? That was segregation to some degree.
Yeah, of
You could only
course.
live in certain communities. You can only say this is your spot. You live here, and that's it. You can't go anywhere else.
No, but that's obvious. But how is that not obvious to other people? Is insane to me.
Well, because people are people. They're just like, oh, I don't mean anything. It's like, the history of Chinatowns, like.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm pretty sure it was bad, because if it's bad in these ghettos, then it's bad everywhere. But anyway, so let me get back to this. Well, Jesus, we were talking about IB. What's that guy always talking about giving out free money? Yeah, UBI.
Andrew Yang.
No, but we were talking about that, and then but that's the thing. It's like when you talk about UBI, it's some of the most racist stuff that you'll ever hear, because UBI comes from the whole notion of minimum wage. See, that's a progressive policy. And why was that instituted? Well, the whole idea behind minimum wage is because, look, if you have to start paying people, I'm not going to pay a black guy. I'd rather pay a white guy to do this work. And he might not have the same skills or the same, educational background like a black, but I'm not going to pay a black guy because we've never paid black people ever. And, we just had they were all contractors. They made what they made. And so forget that. If I have to honestly do these things, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So UBI is just a spin-off of that. Let's give a little bit of money that you can't do anything with, and let's keep them hooked on not chasing education, not chasing, anything that's really going to better themselves. Because if you honestly believe a community can come out of poverty by owning bakeries, you're an idiot. And you can't even open up a bakery for $1,000 a month. Oh, I'm going to save for 10,000 years.
It's funny how, even if you do support UBI, how no one, at least not from what I can tell, has said to Andrew Yang, like, but $1,000 a month in, Idaho is going to be very, very different from New York City. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny how now it's going to be, because it's going to be a gateway into like, well, now New York City needs more money. because obviously $1,000 a month is not the same there as it is in Nebraska. So
Yeah.
it's just a perpetual problem of keeping people dependent.
Okay, so but think about this. Is Andrew Yang hoping, because I heard him say this about everybody moving, like, oh, people got to move. You have to move, if you have to move to make your condition better. So is Andrew Yang hoping that all black people with that $1,000 a month will start pooling their money and take over a state like Idaho and then make it like a big black state where you do have opportunities with that $1,000 a month? You know what I mean?
Is that what they would want?
Yeah, but that would be the end result. That's what they're hoping for. Like, yeah, get them the F out of, California and let them take over Wyoming or
There's nothing there, man. There's
yeah,
just
but that's the point.
years. That's like the only thing in Wyoming.
Yeah, there's nothing there, so let them take it over. And that's Andrew Yang's plan. Andrew Yang's plan, because what else, like, what are you going to do with $1,000 if you're in New York? Well, why don't you guys open up Spanish Harlem in Wyoming or in like you said, Idaho? You can grow potatoes. You guys love French fries and chips.
Wow, yeah.
And so,
Okay.
but that's the ultimate end game of UBI. What else can you do with $1,000 a month? You can't do anything with that money, even in Wyoming. Because think about it. If you, I believe you can buy an acre for like $1,500, undeveloped land, $1,500 an acre. And so what do you do with that? You buy an acre, 2 months, you're able to buy an acre. Okay, so you're living on undeveloped land. So what, you buy a tent? What are you going to do with that money? Like, there is nothing you can do. So people are going to be forced to pull together in order to make it work in Wyoming and or Idaho or wherever that you could take it over, like North Dakota. You could probably take over North Dakota. So anyway, so UBI is just a joke. Anything that he says about UBI, it's all a fairy tale. It just really is. So, if I was to get $1,000, I'd just spend it. I'd buy a gun every month. I'd use that money to buy myself a new gun. And then after I had like 100 guns, I'd start buying bow and arrows. You know what I mean? No, seriously, I'd build myself an archery range and I'm going to start shooting bows and arrows and just practicing,
One thing we'll get into is, the idea that people, I've said this before, but people believe that universal basic income, or at least Andrew Yang is an advocate for, hey, if you gave it to the poor people, it's not indicative of them going to spend it on drugs and alcohol if they have that problem. But like I said before, it's like, dude, UBI doesn't work because human beings are flawed. It's bad reinforcement for behavior. Like the story I've told you before that I'll say on here is like, dude, look at what happened that time that cute news anchor went to that Las Vegas lottery or whatever, talked to a guy and said, hey, what are your odds of winning the lottery? He's like, 300 million to 1. She's like, oh, not good odds. He's like, yeah. And then she's just like, hey, if you won the lottery, what would you do? And without hesitation, the guy was like, a lot of hookers and cocaine. And it's the funniest thing. But the reason why I use that example, it's because it's the perfect human response to what happens when you get money. When you get money you don't work for, you blow it on hookers and cocaine. That's just what people do. And when he said it, he was like, when he was interviewed about it later, because it went viral, he basically just said, like, I don't know. That's just what people do. Like, he was just kind of like, it just came out of me. That's my point. That's what you people will do. You give everybody $1,000 a month, they blow it on things.
Well, Thomas Sowell said the exact same thing. He said, like, he said, why would I work as a professor, get whatever, when I was making the same money to sit here at UCLA doing nothing? Why would I, when I'm already getting the same money? Why would I take the same money? Why would I? I'm getting free money. No, but Thomas Sowell said the same thing, or Thomas Sowell. He said the exact same thing way back in 1980.
But like, that's the thing. It's like, it's not just, it's an economics thing. It's a human thing.
Nature.
Like, yeah. Look at any like personal finance guru. I'd love to hear what Dave Ramsey says about this. And I've said it before. It's like, dude, you give poor people who have bad spending habits more money. Guess what?
Dave Ramsey, what about him?
Dave Ramsey, like if you like, for example, if you have a debt problem, like he's a debt finance guru. If you got a debt problem at a level of income that you have, say it's 50 grand, it's not going to change if you make more money. If you make $500,000 a year, 50 grand a year, you got a debt problem, you're still going to have a debt problem because it's behavioral. Money doesn't change it. What Andrew Yang believes is that if we gave poor people $1,000, they'd go get a job. Yeah, right. Come on.
Or start a business.
Start a business. No. Maybe if you educated them and you broke the behavioral cycle, but poor people, not all, but some are poor because of decision making. So it doesn't mean you give them money that they're going to go do something good with it.
Well, here's my thing, right? So even if they started a business, would they be good at it? If they started a business, seriously, would they be good at starting a business?
It's hard to say. I mean,
with capital of $1,000 a month.
He's very optimistic about allocating that to poor people, thinking that it's going to help.
You know, but he has like, do you know who Kim Iverson is?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. So for those who don't know, Kim Iverson is like this really wannabe Young Turk type of person.
Well, she's on the Young Turks. I mean, she was already like.
So and all these people have no clue on anything realistic, on business or human behavior or anything like that. So she loves Andrew Yang. Kim Iverson is a big advocate for everything he says. Or not everything, but for like a most part, a lot of things that he says, like, oh, he's so rational. He's going to be like the next savior for everything that for everything that he's saying, like, you know, because he says some garbage, and I'm thinking, this dude says nothing but garbage, but yeah, somehow, some way, this big booby chick is like, oh yeah, guess what? I love everything he says, and because I got big breasts, it's okay for me to like him.
All right. We can talk about.
No, but it's crazy. I'm thinking that's her go-to thing. Her whole stick.
I thought she's a Tulsi supporter, not an Andrew Yang supporter. Whatever.
Well, no, but like, if you listen to what she, like, God, you really got to listen to what she says about this guy. And I'm thinking, holy crap, this is insane. This is why we're never, ever going to get ahead. Or, I mean, not that we have to get ahead, but, you know, because most Black people really believe in progressive ideology, I always think like that. It's like, you know, as a people, you know, like, I really respect how Asians are like on top of everything. You know, you like that. Like in the old days, everybody loved Trump because he was the king baller. You know what I mean? Like Trump was bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and Prince wrote a song about him saying he wanted to be the Black Trump. You know who Prince is?
Oh yeah, love.
Okay,
him.
so Prince, you know, Prince, like the Prince, the greatest musician, you know, one of the greatest musicians who ever lived, literally wrote a song that said, I want to be the Black Trump, because that's how badass Trump was to the Black community, or to many Blacks. Was like, dude, I want to be like Trump because Trump's the baller. He don't care. He does what he does. Like, you know, he sees what he likes. He takes what he wants. That's him. And Asians are like that. Asians, they don't care. You know what I mean? They can walk around with whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't care. They see something, they take it. And it's funny because, like, you know, my boy, the one that we're talking, he even told me, he's like, dude, I got this thing for white girls. He goes, that's why I got so much money, because I just throw it down and they love it. And I'm thinking, oh man, dude, you're badass. But you know what I mean? That's the attitude you have to have. And like when I watch Kim Iverson, it's like she's like the total opposite of that. She's,
you know, the thing is, I will say this. I commented on one of her videos and I said, hey, you know, this was a very nice, rational interview with Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I'll just give it. You know, it was a good interview.
Better than chick.
Huh?
She interviewed that lady, Tulsi, whatever.
She interviewed Tulsi Gabbard. I haven't interviewed Tulsi.
No. That's what I meant. Like she interviewed her, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus, you know, that's insane. Like, why would anybody go to that? Is insane. Anyway, so what did they talk about?
You know, what do you stand for? What sets you apart as a presidential candidate? You know, the same kind of thing over and over again, you know. Oh, I just sounded like Bill Cosby right there. I don't know why. Why did you go to This is
That's
that
actually
point of the
pretty good.
podcast where we
That's
start getting
pretty
to
good.
no, but Bill Cosby, I don't know. Like I part of me like hates what happened to Bill Cosby, but I don't feel bad for him. Like if he really did all that stuff to women, like you deserve everything coming to you. But man, back in the day, was that guy funny? He would say the stupidest stuff, just like, "Well, I don't even none of the damage."
No, but
I
actually,
like
that's a good
kids.
impression.
I like kids. I don't know why nobody likes me no more. I was America's favorite dad on the Cosby Show.
That's actually really good. That's a good. No, but you want to know?
You got to do
Oh,
that
God.
more on the podcast because it's funny as.
No, but you know what? Though? I mean, gosh.
You
darn
ever
it.
wonder why nobody likes?
No, because like, but this is the thing, but this is the kind of stuff that everybody used to do. It wasn't like Cosby was alone. I'm not excusing it,
Yeah.
but no, because we've done things probably worse than him.
Willie Brown.
Well, yeah, no. Willie Brown, that's bad. No, but what I'm saying is this, like, because people honestly don't get it. Like the whole thing about drinking, like there's TV shows about
I mean,
this.
he's allegedly he roofied women. Like that's not right.
Well, he gave him Spanish fly, which isn't, dude. Spanish fly doesn't work. But the thing is, it's like the whole thing about Spanish fly. It's an urban myth. It doesn't work. It doesn't make.
I don't even know what it is. What is Spanish fly? Is that a disease?
No. Spanish fly is like it's this drug that you could buy at Quick Stop or 7-Eleven, and you just put it in your drink and it makes you horny. That's the whole thing. It's like green M&Ms. Oh, give a chick green M&Ms and she's gonna be horny. And
I have never heard this before in my life.
No, it's a street thing. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a black thing, but but in the streets, that's what we used to do. Like, because that was the whole thing. Like, you'd have to get a chick. Like nobody, like that was the whole thing, chasing women. That's what.
But it's also it's like no different from buying someone a drink because obviously you're trying to talk and loosen up.
You lower the inhibitions. That's all you're doing, and that's totally acceptable. To this day, it's still acceptable. Come on. Now they're trying to make laws about if you can't bang a chick if she's high or whatever. You can't do it. It's against the law. It's rape. But what if we're both drunk and high? Come on. I've been drunk once. Seriously, like I drank only 2 times in my life. And one time, I drank 5 coffee mugs of tequila. And okay, so I owe this dude like $2,500, right? And I wasn't gonna pay because I didn't have the money. And I'm like, dude, I don't got the cash. I was like, all right. And they knew I wasn't gonna pay him back, right? So he goes, okay, so we'll call it even if you drink because I never seen you drunk. Blah 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 blah. Why don't you drink? It was like Jose Cuervo, 5 mugs of this. I want to see it.
Mugs.
Yeah, no. So like first mug, I drank it. Second mug, drank it. But by the 2.5, like half of the third, shit, my eyeballs felt like it was gonna pop out of my eyes. So and I was like, holy, whoa, you know what I mean? But then I drank all 5, and so then
that's a lot. Did you like get alcohol poisoning?
No. Check this out. Wait till you see. So anyway, so instantly by the end of the 5th mug, my head was spinning. Blah 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 blah. I felt the effects immediately, and but at the whole time I knew what was going on. I was totally aware of what's going on. So they were telling me, hey, lift this weight over your head, because there was a time when I was able to do like 130 pounds, one hand on an Olympic-sized bell, just boom, over my head, just hold it up like this. No problem. So, I went to the weight and, I went to go pick it up and, and I got it up and I was like, whoa, and I was totally swirling and whatever. And I put it down. They're like, oh, no, put it down. You're going to hurt yourself. So then they took me outside and they go, come on, let's go run to the store. So I ran down the street and then, once we got to the store, they had a grass area, and I just started puking my head out, just throw it all up. And so anyway, went back to the apartment, and they were having me do all kinds of other stuff. And the whole time I knew what was going on. I knew it was like Big Jazz was telling me to do stuff.
Were they trying to get you to like hurt yourself or what?
Nah, they just wanted to see me drunk. So like all these things that I was able to do, they just wanted to see me do it drunk. So anyway, and then after I threw up, I felt pretty good, but I was still drunk, but I was still cognizant of everything that was going on. So then, we went out to the club and almost got into a fight, but then they held me back like, dude, you're way too drunk to fight. And the dude was a huge dude, like, and I still think I could have took him, but and hours already had passed, and and then I was throwing up in my sleep before we went to the club. So like, I went just throwing up, but I was drunk. I was drunk for maybe, I felt the effects of it for about a good like 19 to 20 hours.
Dude.
But at the whole time except for when I was asleep, I knew what was going on. You know what I mean? I still remember the guy who wanted to fight me. He called me Michael Jackson, that mother. You know what I mean? That mother. He goes, "What, Mike?" Because my hair, the way it was at the time, he was like,
"Yeah,
oh, Michael Jackson, you can beat me up, Michael? What, Prince?" He was calling me Prince and Michael Jackson. I was like, yeah, I would just tear him up. But then they held me back, and I was like, holy smokes! Like if Jess is able to hold me back, because I was stronger than Big Jess.
Yeah.
Because Big Jess, he was able to do like 735. Because we had like a max out contest before, and I wasn't even done. I just wanted to see if I could beat him, or he wanted to see if he could beat me, and he stopped at 735, and I stopped at 750. I could have kept going, but I didn't. But when Jess held me back as strong as he held me back, I was like, holy smokes, like you really don't have control of your muscles as if you were sober. And but your mind is still there. Mm-hmm. So you're still cognizant of things. And then other people said like, nah, dude, that's just you. That's your experience. And other people, they don't have the same cognitive abilities while drunk. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't know. From my own experience, I was able to remember everything, and I knew what was going on. And if I wanted to do something, I would have done it. If they would have told me stab myself, I didn't do it. I didn't stab myself because I was drunk didn't mean I was going to do it. So, but anyway, but that's the thing. So it's like,
what does that have to do with Cosby?
Okay, so the whole thing with the thing about being drunk is you get a girl drunk in order to sleep with her, because everybody
that's the
knows.
Old days. These days in the Me Too era, it's like that's not okay. People are just like.
But what do they do now? Weed? Get you to smoke weed? Because here's the thing.
No, people don't do anything. Men aren't getting laid these days.
Oh gosh, see, that's why it's like, it's amazing to me. It's like, how is this, like, how did we come from a society where vagina was like the gold standard to now it's like, oh, look at it, it's gross, I don't want it.
It's not that. Men, like a lot of young men just can't get a woman now.
Yeah, but why? That makes no sense. But anyway, but going back to Cosby, because dude, like, I'm still tripping out how guys don't want to get laid. I don't understand it. Like my whole existence was for getting laid. Like if I wasn't trying to get laid, what would I like? Come on, I don't understand it. Like I was like, man, I don't know any guy. Like one of my friends, I guess I'm gonna say his name, not his real name. His name was Aladdin, but he's known like throughout the art community as Aladdin. And I remember Aladdin, like when he was just a regular guy. And this, we didn't really touch about this yesterday about why on the streets everybody's conservative, because and it wasn't so much like if you're homeless you have to be homeless. It's like no. As long as you're broke, the only way to escape being broke is to be conservative. So there was this guy named Aladdin, and his brother was like a really good DJ, Grandmaster TDC. And so TDC was like, like really cool. He was getting money DJing and stuff like that. And here's Aladdin. What's Aladdin going to do? Aladdin didn't have any skills. His DJing skills were not as good as his brother. So his brother was getting all these gigs where Aladdin, nobody really cared. But Aladdin was really good at drawing.
Right.
Became a really well-known and famous graffiti artist. And he was making money, like a lot of it. And he was able to do the poster. Like he was getting gigs from the NBA. So he did a poster with for Shaquille O'Neal where he did the graffiti background. And it's a Rim Shaker. So if you look at Rim Shaker, with Shaquille O'Neal. That's Aladdin. You'll see Aladdin's little name scribbled like with graffiti. And he
Oh,
also
okay.
the iconic Run TMC with Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, and Chris Mullin. They were called Run TMC back at the Golden State Warriors. He did that one. You'll see like Aladdin's thing on the side. So, you know, he was able to parlay his graffiti, breaking the law, you know, scribbling on walls. Dude, he was doing some bad pieces though. Like, he would do some like Transformers, and like he did like, well, here's my point. He got so good at it, women liked him, but he didn't really have game like because his brother TDC,
Yeah.
he was ugly. We used to call him Crow, like for Scarecrow, because he had 2 cavities in his teeth, so we call him Scarecrow, right? But you know, for short they called him Crow. So Crow, Grandmaster TDC, he was getting women even though he was like ugly, and you know, because look, when you're broke, it's hard growing up broke, because he was Scarecrow not just because he was ugly, because they were poor.
Yeah.
He was probably some of the poorest people, so his clothes were all raggedy. He looked like
Oh man.
Crow. So, but you know, but nobody ran around like, oh, like social justice warrior. They're calling me Scarecrow. Nah, he went from Scarecrow to just Crow. And then Crow that's a cool name, you know, and like, hey, Crow, you know.
Well, yeah, he owned it. He just like basically internalized it and was like, I don't care anymore.
Was getting laid left and right, but then here's Aladdin without getting the same type of fame like TDC, but eventually he did. But then, what he did was he made this like Lady Smurf thing, you know, like, you know, but it was cool, like a bit, because you know these graffiti pieces would cover up an entire wall.
Oh, okay.
You know, of course, like this one chick, oh, wow, Aladdin made this for me. You know what I mean? So, boom, he was able to get chicks. Everything we do is based on getting chicks. I don't understand how today's men don't want women. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
We'll have to revisit that in some future episodes.
Yeah, because come on, we were broke as hell, and we were still able to pull down some hot ladies from like, you know, like, who were rich, affluent chicks, you know, and they weren't just slumming it. They liked us on our ability. Like, oh my God, Aladdin did all these great things, or Crow, oh my God, he went to New York and he did all these things. Or like Playboy, you know, I could talk about Playboy Rob. I mean, you know, but it's like he was one of the best dancers you'll ever see. And
that's because all that is just a need to have to like get somewhere with what you have. That is conservatism. It's like, I can't get handouts from nobody. I got to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Even if it means going all like you know what I mean? Like, I just think like comedians like Bill Cosby. It's like I have no choice but to be funny. And Christopher Hitchens also said this in another video. It's like, dude, if men like he was in a video where he's just like, women shouldn't be funny or can't be funny, or I think his thing was women don't have to be funny. Like with men, it's like you have to be, because if you weren't, you wouldn't get laid. You
know, but it's the truth. Well, see, okay, now let's bring it back to Bill Cosby's like this. If he didn't have Aladdin's skill or Crow's skills or Playboy Rob's skill, you had to get a chick drunk or go to this quick stop and go buy some Spanish wine. No. Seriously, that was the only way. That was the only way you're getting laid. And you know,
Bill Cosby was just like, yeah. I don't know why doing that allows me to just like say dumb stuff, because anything that you do with that like tone sounds like Bill Cosby, even if it's just like well,
but I'm telling you now, it was totally socially acceptable.
I think
one of the greatest white movies of all time is like 16 Candles with Molly.
Yeah.
And hey, that happened. You know, the chick, the prom queen, was drunk, and then her boyfriend goes, have fun with her, just make sure she gets home, you know, in one piece. And I'm thinking, you know, selling her off to some freshmen so he could bang some chick that he liked. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, the whole thing was come on, that was part of how we grew up. Yeah. Just like, hey, look, if a chick is drunk, yeah, you can do it because she wanted it, or you know what I mean? So like the whole thing with Bill Cosby, you know, was it bad? I don't know, because I still don't believe these women. Like, I honestly don't believe these women. What am I still don't believe? I know for just from how human behavior is, all these women were with Bill Cosby because they wanted to get ahead. That was how, like, the whole thing with Harvey Weinstein. These women, like Harvey Weinstein said himself, he didn't invent the casting couch. He didn't. These women knew if you want to do something, you know, want to get ahead or take a shortcut, suck his dick. You know, go spread your legs for him, bend yourself over. That's how that industry is ran. So I don't understand why everybody's complaining about it. Everybody knew, everybody still knows. All of these supermodels like Cindy Crawford, Paulina, back in the day, all of these people did those types of things to get where they're at. If they didn't want to do any of that, why didn't they do what Aladdin did? Why didn't they do what Crow did? Why didn't they do what Playboy Rock did?
It's easier to just, you know, like, come on. Look at how the porn industry is run. It's just like, hey, just do this and that. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be real with you because, like, I mean, I disagree with porn. I think it's dangerous.
No, it is. No, it
is dangerous. But it's true though. Like, the way they coerce a lot of these women is just like, hey, just do this. You can make $5,000 a day, and it's like, how is that any different?
Where's my $5,000? After they do, what happened to my $5,000? Oh, you'll get it when the video sales don't come through. And you know,
but see, the thing is, I think that unfortunately, even though I'm someone that's just like, that sucks, but that's how that industry is run, dude.
Yeah.
Like, actually,
well, see, like,
that's how most industries are.
But here's the thing: like, I never had to do that. Like, I never had to do what Bill Cosby did. I never had to do that. But I understand why people do, because they don't have the same abilities. Like, if you weren't like, God, you don't even know. It's like, that's why I did not like hanging out with certain people, because they had nothing for them other than they can get you high or drunk, and that was the only way they're getting laid. And that was totally acceptable because everybody was doing it. Everybody, except for those people who had actual real talent. So, you know, I mean, you know, and I always felt bad for people like that. You know, like the chicks that had to do that. I'm thinking, God, how messed up are you that you'd be with this guy? You know what I mean?
That's it's true. I think that it's something that we have to talk about in future episodes. I don't want to open up that can of worms too soon, because that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, no, but going after Cosby to me was a bunch of crap, and going after Harvey Weinstein is a bunch of crap. It's just,
wow. Even though he took advantage of women, I mean,
see, but that's how it is. Like, I'm not saying like that's conservative values. See, because there's like, I don't want to confuse.
You're not saying it's right, but you're just saying that's how it was.
But that's the thing. There is a difference from being a conservative. Like, how you have sex has nothing to do with conservative ideology. See, how you have sex has something that you have as a moral, ethical person. See, I grew up with no ethics. You know, like no, it's true. I was an atheist. I was like a punk rocker. We're anarchists. You know, come on. We had no moral compass at all. No, we did. Come on, like. And if Aladdin or Crow would ever hear this, they know this is true. We threw an M80 into the hole in the wall where they were living at. Freaked out their family. You know what I mean? I didn't throw it in there. Somebody else did, because they thought it was funny. They had like an M80. They go, hey, isn't this Aladdin's house? And they threw it in there in the middle of the night, like at 3 o'clock in the morning. But you know what I mean? Yeah. It's we grew up with no moral compass. Normal people don't do things like that. They just don't. Like, I had a couple of friends who literally peed in the chili at the Wiener Schnitzel, like the big pot of chili beans. He peed in it, and I'm thinking, dude, you're sick. It's like, what is wrong with you? But he did it. He was like, dude, it's funny because everyone's gonna eat it. And I'm like, that ain't funny. But it's like, but that's the kind of stuff they would do. That's why whenever I see a bunch of dudes working at a place, I'm not going to eat there, because I'm thinking, oh, I know what guys do when they're alone. You know, they just do stuff like that. So, you know, oh man, like, because how it is on the streets, it really is
different world.
Different. Yeah. And the only way to survive is to, honest to God, have conservative principles. Because if you don't understand,
which is in a weird way of saying every man for himself, like,
Yeah, it has to be, because you have to always watch your back. You got to watch what you eat because you never know what people are going to do. You just don't know. So, you can't rely on the government. Oh, hey, guess what? These two people peed in the chili. Come on, police officers. Where's your proof? It's just a waste of time. We learn at an early age, the cops, the government, it's all full of crap. Because I could go into like, no,
Man,
seriously, like,
we're from different worlds, dude.
well, no, but think about this. You know, the school I went to, we were considered honor students, and there was these two Vietnamese kids, and they got perfect scores on their SAT. Like the school I went to, only 3 people had a score of over 1,000 on their SAT score, right? So anyway, so that's how bad our school was. The average score at our school must have been like 800, 850. And you get like 400 points for putting your name on the stupid test. So you really have to be stupid to get 800. And that's everybody at my school. So anyway, so the honor students, the smartest kids at that school, had a child molester as a teacher. He was abusing us sexually. I didn't care because he wasn't abusing me. But the one day, I'm telling you, this is how this story happened, and how like you can't trust the government. So one day my teacher goes, oh, we can be like, the Professor Drake and let the air go through one ear and out the other. And I'm like, oh, dude, you just fucked yourself. Cause like, he never bothered me. I don't bother him. He don't bother me. So, and when he started fighting with me, I went home, wrote a letter, got one of my friends who was at the local university, and he helped me write the letter with all these big words and everything else. Like, he was like, not to my surprise, but to my, I still remember how it went down. The big first sentence, not to my surprise, but to my chagrin, this teacher, blah, 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 blah. Dude, he was molesting the chicks in our classroom. He showed us Quest for Fire, saying that it was a good way to learn about, history. And it was just porn. Like Michael, what's his name? Michael Moore wrote this movie called Quest for Fire, where there's no talking. It's just a bunch of cavemen. And, all these cavemen are doing are just killing each other and fucking. That's it.
What?
And, yeah, it was a crazy movie. But then that teacher said that was appropriate because that's how it used to be. I think. And then, so anyway,
Yeah.
I wrote this letter about how he was abusive, sexually molesting the kids, and doing all these things to all of us. I had all the kids in our class sign that paper, even the 2 smart ones, and like the 2 smartest Vietnamese kids. And I remember when I took it to the teachers, like, hey, look, this is a real deal, blah, 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 blah. And they go, fuck, man. It goes, everybody says, it's like, yeah, everybody is like, look, normally I would question you, but because you got, these 2 Vietnamese kids signing it, Jesus. So he took it seriously, and he goes, well, let me go talk to the principal. And so anyway, so the principal didn't do shit. The very next year, we got the same teacher fucking teaching us. And then that whole year, like, all of the other quote unquote top athletes were trying to talk me out of it and all of the bullshit, trying to get me to give them a chance. And I'm thinking, this is bullshit. Why the fuck would I care? I was like, you know what? I just never, that taught me right there. You cannot trust the system. You can't trust these teachers. You can't trust any government official because they don't care. And
right.
Those lessons stay with you your entire life. And if you allow, and that's what happens to a lot of kids in the ghetto. They just, instead of like having the will to fight for themselves, they just give into the system saying, oh, forget about it. I'm just going to be a victim. Because, I believe out of that class, I think maybe 6 or 7 out of 30 chose to fight for themselves. But the rest, they just became believers of the system. And, oh, well, is this what happens? But I'm telling you, he behaved that year. He didn't do anything crazy.
Yeah.
Spent that entire year trying to win us all back, trying to win us over.
And it didn't happen, did it? Yeah.
Well, not with me. I don't know about the other kids, but then he still had the top athletes of that school saying how cool he was. You know what I mean? Because I remember, and it's like, and then I'm, like kind of secretly, because one of those top athletes actually is a coach at a school in the Bay Area. And I hope he hears this, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't want to say his name or anything, but this guy did have records and that still stand to this day. And that's how good he was as an athlete, you know, for records to stand that long. But, you know, because he was one of the few white people.
Mm.
And even though he did go through stuff, but wasn't like for the rest of us. I mean, you could see the difference in how whites were treated from like the rest of everybody, because we had Samoans, blacks, and he would date. And you know what? But I don't fault him because I knew he wasn't a racist, because that dude was banging. You know?
No, I know what you're saying, and I
mean,
think
he wasn't banging a white chick. I know
who
who he was banging, but it wasn't a white chick.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't racist. He just, you know, like, again, he was sheltered. And I remember, like, we were talking about things, and he was like, no. People don't. I was like, dang, really? Like, I was shocked how he didn't have my experiences. And I'm thinking, well, that's because he lived with his mom, single mom, but still, he still had a parent. So when you don't have parents, see, like with Crow and Aladdin, they had different dads, same mom. So a mom like that, you know, this might sound harsh, but a mom who has multiple children from multiple men aren't taking care of her kids. That's just how it works. It's the truth. You know, they're not taking care of their kids. So even though, like, my parents were gone, so technically I was being raised by other family, but when you have no primary parent, like the way that one athlete had, the white athlete had, your experiences are like night and day. Even having one parent is night and day from having no parents, like the way Aladdin, Crow had, you know, didn't have. And it kind of explains, like, Playboy Rob had both parents, and that's why he was more grounded versus everybody else. So anyway, but that's the thing. Conservatism on the streets is the only way to make it. And you see it, you know, with families that are intact, those kids do better. But if you have no parents and you're relying on the system, like one of my teammates, they were being molested the entire time. Nobody knew. I found out later when the girl that was living there was a prostitute. I was like, what? You know, like, I was tripping. I was like, dude, did you see what's her face? She's on the street selling herself. I thought she was doing good. Like, I don't make any, like, why? She had both parents. What happened to her? You know what I mean?
No, it makes perfect sense.
No, but it turned out that those weren't her parents. That was a product of, you know, I guess they were adopted.
Well, it could have been a foster home or, you know.
Yeah, it was
a situation like that where it's pretty common for kids that are just going through that, where, hey, you know, we'll just pair you up with somebody who's a little bit more deemed a better fit for being a caregiver. So
yeah, no, but that's the thing. And that's why it's like, either it's going to break you, and how it broke that one girl who was a prostitute, or you're going to end up like me and just, you know, just try to get out and be somewhat successful. And that's why conservatism is the only way to get out of the streets. And that's the only place where you have a free market, just like how you had in the 1800s, because it's unregulated. Everything we did was unregulated. And I'll go back to Aladdin. Aladdin was able to open up a tattoo shop. He was able to do all these things without the government. You know, he made his money, he saved his money, and then now, you know, he moved out of California. But you know what's funny? He's a progressive. Aladdin is a progressive.
Probably not by lifestyle, though, just by ideology. I mean,
just because look, when you're uneducated, you're uneducated. He's not educated. You know, nobody's educated from where I'm at. Even as adults, nobody ever went back, learned real history. So, of course, you're going to grow up like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is, I don't know him. I'm just saying, based on what I know of him, Dave Chappelle is an uneducated person who's a progressive because he has been taught and told that conservatives are racist, Democrats are the way to go, and they're going to help the black people. And that's how you help the black people, is by government assistance. And the government is the way to help these people. Mm-hmm. Where you have the opposite spectrum, you have guys like Chuck D saying, hey, look, in one of their songs, I forgot which one, it said that the federal government is an enemy of the black people. And that's the truth. It's always been that way. The federal government has always been the enemy of the people, not just black people, but of all people, because that's why you need a limited government. And you know, so certain people figured it out, but certain people didn't because they see how food stamps were helpful. You know, like I know people who grew up on food stamps and they're not on it now. So is a safety net needed? I believe no. I really don't.
People see it as a temporary thing to get you back on your feet. I mean, I when I was fired from my job, I was on unemployment for six weeks, but I got off of it. You know, like so I can't.
I'm choking you right now.
No, but I was this dude. I was like 20.
No, but you paid into it though. That's the difference. You paid into unemployment. I don't know if you knew that, but your employer pays for unemployment insurance.
Right.
That's part of the payroll taxes and BS like that. But that's why I believe you got to get rid of all of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It just
so you know.
Hey, we're pushing a couple hours here. I mean, you want to wrap it up with some final
Yeah.
thoughts?
Whenever you're done, I'm ready to.
No. But I get it because to tie it back, we went through a lot of stuff here with conservative ideology, you know, and why progressivism is in fact something that is a weapon, right? It's an ideology that is a weapon to really keep people in bondage, for lack of a better word.
But that's how you keep everybody as slaves. As long as they're dependent on the government, slavery will always be legal. And that's just how it goes. But today, slavery is they don't care what color you are, as long as you're broke.
That's right.
You need that underclass in order for them to make it.
Yeah. American Made and Paid, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't worry, Dreg. I'm not going to hang up. I'm just going to.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you guys all soon in the next episode.